welcome in to another edition of Dish and Ish. I'm Ravi Lulla. That is my man, old DB, Damon Benning. How you doing, man?
You know it. What's up, buddy?
I'm doing good. Just hanging out here on a Thursday.
Just hanging out.
We are like, what is it, 32 hours away from real high school football being played?
Yeah, I can't wait.
I'm excited, man.
I am too. Like, we've got to do some old school, old-fashioned scouting.
Yeah.
Because we can't necessarily trade
tape.
film.
Yeah.
It's okay. I know what my jobs are. I'm personnel
It's
and
exciting.
formations.
So
somebody will chart run pass.
Yeah.
Somebody will chart direction, down and distance. Like, we got this thing on lock.
You got it.
I don't know what those ridiculous offensive guys are going to be over there scouting, but I know the job we're supposed to be doing.
So we did that. So when I was coaching college basketball, it was like kind of in the infancy of huddle and all that kind of stuff. So film exchange was more challenging. A lot of times we were doing it with like actual physical DVDs and stuff like that. And so you didn't have a lot of turnaround time. Like, you couldn't get quick turnaround on some of those, right? So when we were in tournament situations, like we were in a regional one year and we're out there.
Ooh, Mr. Big Time.
I mean, we were pretty good.
Okay.
I coached for 8 years in college and we made 6 national
Who
tournaments.
was your star over there, Grace? Was it Jimmy Chitwood?
No, we had this at Grace.
Devin Duvereau?
Well, he went from Grace and he followed us to NCC. We had this kid named DJ Haynes.
Yeah.
Who you ask Padilla or Souter about him.
DJ Haynes?
Yeah. He dropped 72 on Doan.
Oh, bucket getter.
He had 55 after halftime.
Where'd you find DJ Haynes?
Colorado.
Okay.
He fell into our lap. If you want to know the honest to God.
From Denver?
He dropped Colorado Springs.
Okay.
So
wow.
We went and played. We would go play bye games all the time, right?
Yeah.
So we went and played Oral Roberts. He had 38.
By games, you need to tell the fans of the podcast that you're making money so you can support your athletic budget to get your head beat in.
Yeah, we would get just our heads bashed in so that we could afford.
You're paying us how much so we can have Chick-fil-A after?
So we could afford to play basketball the rest of the season.
Right.
It's a small school deal. It doesn't happen everywhere.
Bye games. I haven't heard that for a minute.
Dude, so we went down to Oral Roberts. He dropped 38 on Oral Roberts.
Yeah.
Because they refused to double him. They were like, we are not going to double some NAI kid.
Yep.
He's been playing pro ball in Europe for like 5-6 years now. But so this kid fell in our lap.
Mm-hmm.
Total accident. He was a Division II football player. He was like a corner prospect, like 6'1", super quick, real quick twitch guy. But he loved basketball. So he had better football offers coming out of high school than he did basketball. So he went and played football for a year, hated it.
Yeah.
Hated college football, wasn't for him. So he's just sending out tapes to everybody that'll listen. And so I watched the tape with my head coach at the time, and I was like, this kid's pretty good. Like, let's take a flyer on him.
Right.
Literally, we're talking like a $500 a semester scholarship, like nothing. Like a flyer on this dude.
Grace, once upon a time, was expensive.
I think it was until the end, and then it stopped being expensive because it didn't exist anymore.
Right.
But so he comes in.
We have history there.
Yeah.
My ex used to work there.
Yeah, I'm aware.
In blink of an eye. Yeah. That's a whole nother.
We cross paths.
Exactly.
And so
that's tough.
And so we literally $500 a semester, which if you know anything about small college athletics, that means we will allow you to come. We don't care that you are here.
All right.
So we get him in, and he ends up starting for us pretty quickly, putting up like 12, 15 points a game his freshman year. And we're like, oh, this kid's pretty good. So we bump his scholarship up. The next year goes out and averages 30 a game. And we're just like, oh, we've got one of those.
So what is this, like 13 or 14?
This was, his freshman year would have been 14, 15, I think. And then he played through 18, 19. Ended up scoring like, I think 3,000 points for his career between the two schools. Like, just stupid. His last 3 years, he averaged 30 a game.
Okay.
And this is getting double and tripled by everybody but Oral Roberts, because Oral Roberts was too proud. Thing before real quick. So he did the 38 on Oral Roberts. He did the 72 on Doan. We try and get
he Acemus, Max Acemus before Acemus got to Oral Roberts?
Yes. So we went and we tried to get a game with UNO when Darren Hansen was still there.
Yeah.
And he goes, you still got that Haynes kid? And we go, yeah, it's his senior year. He's like, call us next year. That's a true story.
That sounds so DH too, man.
We were like, man, we'll do the buy game. We just don't have to drive 8 hours for it, right?
Right.
We're like Summit League. If Oral Roberts will pay us, why won't UNO pay us?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, call us next year.
DH is a real one, man. That's my guy. So what was your role? Were you a shot chart guy? Were you?
So I was more of a like in-game adjustment guy in terms of actual coaching. My main roles.
So were you like you were like charting actions?
I wasn't charting anything. I'm there just like watching the game, seeing what's working in live time, seeing what's not working.
Okay.
And so I would help with like rotations and then like, hey, maybe we throw out a 1-3-1 here to throw them off a little bit. Like they seem like they're in a rhythm, like that kind of stuff. I was mostly offense, but I would see what was kind of working on defense too. But my main roles were scouting players, incoming players. That's the thing I'm best at is scouting
talent evaluation.
And then I did strength and conditioning for the team as well.
Okay. Seems to fit.
Well, yeah. In game, it was all just like in-game adjustments. Like, hey, what do we have that'll work against this? That kind of stuff.
In the famous vein of this morning's show, how did you separate talent from athleticism?
Yeah, so that's really hard at that level, right? Because you're not recruiting guys at an NAI level that are full packages, right? So you're trying to decide what can I live with in terms of what their deficiency is, because there's always a deficiency.
How does a 38-inch vertical correlate into actual whether you have some basketball talent?
Right. So we had this kid, love him to death, the salt of the earth kid. Like 6'7".
That is such a Midwestern thing.
Salt of the earth.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
I don't know why it is.
Do you answer like fair to Midland too? Hey, how you doing now, man? Fair to Midland.
I like don't know what it is. I don't know that I'd said salt of the earth like 4 times in my entire life. I've said it like 3 times in the last week. I don't know what happened. I turned 36. Maybe I'm getting to like my Midwestern middle-aged vibes.
You got off your jukebox drinking bench, and now all of a sudden you're like this sage old wily soul. I get it.
But we had this kid, like the best kid you could possibly have, was built up. And this dude loved working out, whatever. He came in and worked out for us. And I was like, oh, man, we're going to win a national championship. Like that was my first thought, like 10 minutes into the workout. And he was a nice kid. He was an okay player, but could never translate it into games. The workouts, he looked incredible. Could never figure it out in games, and I love this kid to death, but that's a really good example of athleticism not translating.
Yeah. So for me, and he had some talent, but the prime example I have of that is a guy I used to play with named Jay Sims.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Running back.
Yeah.
Freaky athlete.
Has incredible mop-up time numbers.
Listen, 10.9 standing broad jump.
Yeah.
38-inch vertical.
Just freak.
He's a 4.4 guy.
Yeah.
But like when you watched him, and we'd pick him up we played against him because we our intramural team, we had won the rec league a couple times. Pogo, sticky, but never looked like super fluid, right? Like
the hips, right?
Like there was just something about
a little bit of stiffness.
Like
rigidity in his movement.
Like I would say, oh man, he's a super athlete. I don't know how talented he is, because I think talent is relative to the desired skills that you want in said sport or person.
Yeah. So when we're talking about athleticism, what I'm thinking about is physical gifts, right? How fast can you run? How high can you jump?
But that doesn't necessarily make you athletic,
right? But it kind of
there's coordination and biomechanics in that too.
See, that's where I was getting, because I would make the argument that like Steph Curry is an elite athlete because of his ability to control his body and repeat movements.
Yeah.
I think Steph Curry may be one of the most athletic people I've ever seen, but not in your traditional measurement type of thing, right?
Just kinesthetically how he can put it together.
So, I mean, at the core, right?
And he can do multiple things.
Yes. Yeah, it's not just a one-trick pony.
He can hit a baseball. He can hit a softball.
He's an incredible golfer. And even so when I think about athleticism, what I really think about is the ability to control your body.
Yeah.
right? That's athleticism at its core. Now, a lot of times it manifests itself in a 4.340 or a 40-inch vertical or a 10-foot broad jump or whatever, right?
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Is Bud Crawford talented or is he athletic?
Both. That's why he's a GOAT.
I think he would tell you his boxing talent stems from his work ethic and athleticism because he's been able to own the skills.
Yeah.
Like own with an H, not O-W.
Hone.
And
yeah, hone.
Hone his skills.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like,
but if he didn't have the level of
you need a certain baseline
athleticism that he has, he could work just as hard and never get to where he's at and never look like how he does, right?
We've seen some boxers with some tremendous talent.
Yes.
Right? Adrian Broner.
I would throw Deontay Wilder in there. I think Deontay Wilder has incredible talent.
Yeah.
Or physical gifts. Deontay Wilder has incredible physical gifts.
No, I would.
And I think he's got really good boxing talent.
But he obviously there's
missing parts.
Right.
He's like a very specific boxing talent type guy, right? But Broner's a good example of a super talented guy. Whereas, like, let's go back to Winky Wright. Okay.
Yeah, not uber talented,
but incredible boxing skill set, right?
Yeah.
The thing that makes Crawford special.
What made you bring up Winky Wright?
I kind of like
get into boxing like that.
I kind of liked Winky.
Do you know why I like? That's funny you bring him. Do you know why I like Winky Wright?
Why?
Never turned down a fight.
Yeah. He'd fight anybody.
Winky Wright's resume is unbelievable.
But when you watch him, you're like, oh, that guy's not super talented, right? Incredible technician, really, really good at his craft. Not a super physically gifted guy, right? So when I talk about talent, I'm talking about the whole package of skills.
My man brought up Shane. He brought up Ronald Wright.
Dude, I liked Winky.
Ronald.
Maybe it was just his nickname,
Wright.
But I liked Winky Wright.
I mean, he fought Peter Quillen, Ike Cortez, Paul Williams, Floyd Mayweather.
Dude, he fought everybody.
Jermaine Taylor, like Felix Trinidad, Shane Mosley.
Jermaine Taylor's one that was like supremely physically gifted.
Hey, uber talented.
Super gifted.
Yeah, I'm all the way with
you.
He just couldn't
put it all together.
Couldn't get right.
You know, and then so when I think we're talking
about Fernando Vargas.
I think we're talking a little bit differently here. We got to find some common language.
Yeah.
So when I talk about talent, I'm talking about everything, right? I'm talking about the whole package.
The kinesthetics, the athleticism.
I'm talking about the physical gifts,
how it relates to your particular sport,
the mentality, the sport-specific skills, the whole thing. That's talent to me. So we were talking, we were kind of talking off air earlier, and I know you were talking on the show earlier about the Pickens versus Jefferson thing, right? Where if you want to go physical skills, yeah, I think Pickens is more talented or has more physical skills than Justin Jefferson does. Justin Jefferson physically is not special. He is kind of like every receiver you would see, which is why he was not a super highly touted guy coming out of high school.
Yeah, 6'1", 190.
Yeah,
6'1"-ish, 190. He's a 4.45 guy. Yeah.
Like pretty good vertical, nothing crazy, but his sport-specific skill is off the charts.
Highly skilled.
Off the charts, right?
Highly skilled.
Whereas like Pickens has all the physical gifts you would want in the world out of a wide receiver.
Yeah.
6'4",
6'3",
3.5,
38-inch vertical.
Yeah, 4.4 time. Yeah. Like he's got the size,
205 pounds.
He's got the frame, everything you would want, right? But he doesn't have the same level of sport-specific skill set that Jefferson does.
Do we know though?
From what we've seen so far.
Okay.
Is that fair?
That's fair.
And to be fair, missed a lot of his last year at Georgia because of the ACL.
Dude, he barely played at Georgia.
Yeah, right. That's what I mean. So
if he wasn't suspended, he was hurt.
Yeah, so he had the COVID, he had the suspension, he was hurt. So we haven't seen a lot of Pickens, right? Yeah. So that's why I say from what we've seen so far.
Uber talented.
And it might be a reps thing too, right? Justin Jefferson probably wasn't this coming out the gate, and I'm sure.
I think this is easy, right?
Yeah.
I do, because I think if I'm an NFL evaluator and a talent scout, all things being equal, and Pickens doesn't come with the knee injury or the baggage.
Yeah.
Who are you taking to start your football team if you're at the combines?
So we're not taking production into account at all.
No. See, thank you for making the distinction, because at that point in the combines, it's not necessarily about production. We've seen the Darius Haywood Bays.
Not at the combine.
We've seen the Darius Haywood Bays get drafted,
yes.
right?
At the draft, it often becomes about production being at least melted in there.
Well, I don't know. Does it?
It does, because, I mean, Jefferson doesn't get drafted where he does without the production.
No.
Devontae Smith doesn't get drafted where he does without the production.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
If we're just talking about, hey, I have to pick a guy based on the combine alone, it's Pickens.
Okay. So, yeah, Smith
like,
and Jigba didn't play a ton.
Yeah.
But you're banking on his talent.
Right. You're banking on the fact that, hey, he produced at this high of a level at a really competitive environment.
Okay.
And was dominant in that environment. So I'm counting on the fact that he's got the base level of athleticism. Because listen,
if you're a good athlete,
yeah,
are you talented?
So
my answer to that is not necessarily.
Right. So I laid out talent is the whole package. If you're athletic,
but if you're talented, are you athletic?
You probably have a baseline of athleticism. Yeah. It doesn't mean you're a freak.
Okay. Yeah, that's next level.
To be
I'm gonna keep the words what they are,
yes.
Right?
So to be talented, you have to have a base level of athleticism, yes. For what we're talking about, right? You don't have to have a base level of athleticism to be like a talented accountant or whatever, right? But for what we're talking about, yes, you have to have be athletic to be talented.
Who's my guy whose stock dropped for Nova, went in the 20s, and Matty DeMarinis and I were talking about him on Twitter one day. About
who we talking
from
about?
Nova?
Hart?
No.
Cam Whitmore.
Whitmore.
This year. Oh yeah. Super athletic.
Talented?
Don't know how talented he is.
Okay. See,
so when I say
that's what that's a good, clean, clear distinction.
Absolutely. Because when I'm watching him, and we see him a couple times last year playing Creighton, watch a bunch of Nova outside of that.
I'm like, ooh, freaky athlete.
And I watching him, I'm like, otherworldly athlete. Looks like an alien. Don't know how good at basketball he is. I just don't know.
Does it have to be, man, if I use the word talent, does it have to be relative to your desired sport?
Yeah, I think so. Talent is specific, right?
That's the distinction, in my opinion.
Well, because even within your sport,
because
right?
It's the ability to excel at a high level in your sport
at the thing that you are supposed to do.
Yeah, with your natural skill sets.
Because it's not even just per sport; it's position specific, right?
Yeah.
Like we've seen guys that are really talented pass rushers can't stop the run to save their lives.
Right. Okay.
They are talented pass rushers. They are dogs.
Like guys that just can kind of get in and naturally give you a limp shoulder.
I randomly brought this guy up. I don't know why. I've been talking about Alden Smith lately, but incredible pass rusher. Couldn't do anything else on a football field to save his life. Right? Dante Hall. Incredible punt returner. Pretty mediocre at everything, or kick returner. Pretty mediocre at everything else on a football field.
You know what's interesting? I would not. This is gonna sound crazy.
Okay.
I would clarify with D Hall,
because
we had to watch so much film when we brought him back for the Jet Awards. Extremely gifted as a returner, like his knack.
Yeah.
He's got a certain level of athleticism
and the sense, but the sense for it.
It never correlated to him as an every down wide receiver.
That's what I mean.
Isn't so that lets you know that it is very, very
talent
specific.
So specific, right?
I'm vibing.
Because
why can't he do that at wide receiver?
Right. The same thing with Devin Hester.
Right.
It's like, why can't we get Devin? They tried so hard to figure out how to get Devin Hester the ball more often.
Yeah.
And it's like he played corner at Miami. He wasn't even an offensive player at Miami.
I'm with you.
You know what I mean? So yes, it's sport specific, but I think it's even more specific than that, right?
So let me ask you something. Because this kind of fits in with Nebraska here.
Okay.
So Rhule draft, because you and I have talked about this ad nauseum about the guys that he's drafting, right? Or drafting. He's recruiting.
Yeah.
And how he's got to have uber confidence in terms of his development, but he starts with a certain level of baseline of athleticism. When we talk how talented the group is that he's bringing in, we haven't used the T word yet.
No,
right? It's not like Kalen Barda or any of these guys. It's not like we're saying oh man, he's defensive back. He's talented. Now
Mhm.
we talk about his athleticism.
Mhm.
What's the magical bridge you cross when you go from the athleticism to the talent discussion? Because what people say when they critique, they go, "Well, I don't know how talented the guy is."
Yeah, because we don't. We don't
Right?
know how talented they
But
are.
we've heard this for years across sports. And it's always related to development.
Yeah. That's the I mean, you ask what's the secret bridge? The bridge is coaching and skill development, right? That's how you take a guy who is super athletic, has super freaky physical gifts, and get them to be a productive member of a team, right? Or be a productive member of a position unit. And there's certain positions you can do that more with than others.
Typically,
Your skill positions,
yeah,
kind of your outside guys and your pass rushers, you can get away with it more, right? Like offensive line is a hyper technique
yeah. But
driven.
isn't it weird how sometimes they'll say, "Man, he's got so much talent," and it's a big guy. You see
Usually,
his footwork.
usually what they mean is athleticism.
Man,
When
listen,
you
we're kind of vibing.
when people say, "Oh, he's so talented, he just hasn't put it together yet,"
Uh,
usually what they mean is physically gifted.
I'm with you.
Like Turner Corcoran's a great example, right? People look at Turner Corcoran and they're like, "That dude is physically gifted in every way you would want an offensive lineman to be physically gifted."
Mhm.
We're waiting on the skill development to figure out a way for him to be a productive.
You want another one?
What's up?
Alex Bullock.
Okay.
Have you ever seen Alex Bullock do anything other than football?
I
Have you
don't
seen
think
some of
so.
his
No.
dunking packages? The dude is
Oh,
a 2 foot
I have seen him play basketball.
windmill dunker.
Yes.
You watch him high point balls, like he can go up and get it.
Yes.
Why don't we talk about Alex Bullock being talented?
Talented or athletic?
No, talented.
Probably because he's a walk-on.
And we haven't seen the skills of athleticism developed,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Couldn't he easily fall into that category with some skill development?
Yeah, with like your Jalen Lloyds and
Because
those
he
types of
has all
guys.
the other
The
physical
tools.
attributes.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. That's an interesting point.
I
with
just
Alex
think it's
Bullock.
weird how we pick and choose
Yeah.
who gets the disclaimer.
Well,
Because he can do things athletically that I can't do, that I could never do.
could we be real about this for a second? It's because when we see a white wide receiver, we assume they're incredibly
maybe
technically proficient.
Maybe.
That's what
But
we're ingrained to think.
But I still think there's something to what you said about the development piece where the talent comes out.
For sure.
Right? Do you remember Thomas Brown?
Yes.
Nebraska had to eventually boot him.
Yeah.
I'll give you one real time.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying when I say he's the most gifted runner, I'm talking about talent. I'm talking about the natural innate ability to use the tools that you have to do something at a high level.
Yeah.
Right? Which is why I never wanted AJ Allen to leave.
Yes.
And
You were always on AJ Allen
from day one.
Yes. You were like, he's better than Anthony Grant.
He's better than all of them.
He's a yes.
He's
you
better.
Like, he is the only one that's special.
He's better than all of them.
Yes.
And I still will maintain that to the. Now we'll see what happens at Miami. But
sure.
Do you know what I'm saying when I say that? That means given whatever with his natural skill set, he needs the least things to go right and the least amount of teaching
to be successful. Yes. Now, I agree with you.
See, that's the difference, in my opinion, between Pickens and Jefferson.
Jefferson needed less teaching for things.
Pickens would need less
if okay.
All things being equal, given
because
the same
of his physical gifts.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. I get what you're saying there. Yeah, that's an interesting.
Pickens wouldn't have to work as hard at his craft, afforded the same luxury. Give Pickens Burrow the same number of the same concepts. Now, I'm not talking about, hear my heart.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about making contested catches or great catches because you're getting into
skill set.
And I would be splitting hairs, right? But when I'm just talking, get out of the rack, could naturally do what they do at a high level. I I don't have any problems with what RC said because I think Pickens can do it easier.
Pickens is more physically able to do it.
More. You can say the T word.
Well, I like to make a distinction because I already defined what I think talent is.
You can say the T word.
I think he's more physically gifted than Justin Jefferson. I don't think that's crazy.
So okay,
but here's the caveat to all of that, right?
Is that the stuff that you had topped on the steak with the lobster?
No, that was caviar.
All right, because I feel like I'm about to be a little salty. I'll just. I feel like my blood pressure is going to rise here for a second.
Salt of the earth.
Yeah, salt of the earth. Yeah, he's on this. He's on this more.
Midwest
You're pink Himalayan. All right, go ahead, spill
I'm
it.
really more of a truffle salt guy myself.
Okay. Go ahead.
No, hold on. Let me get my Route 44. The
Lord,
pinky up.
Claude have mercy.
Dietary limeade, baby.
At least you're only one fist in it today. I'm proud of you.
It's true. Well, I've got the other one in the car. So I want to put this.
Here, what's the caveat?
The caveat is the sports world is littered with the physically gifted people who
talented
never figured it out, who never became talented. Okay. The physically gifted who never bridged the gap to talented. Yeah. Right? The guys that could run the 4.3 and have a 42-inch vertical and that were 6'4" and, had everything you wanted in a player physically and then never got the skill development, the work ethic, the mentality, the IQ, whatever, the innate abilities to bridge the gap from physically gifted to talented. That's the thing that you have to kind of take a breath with, because people.
Do you want me to give you somebody to support your argument or refute it?
Well, both. Let's do both.
I'll give you a guy to support your argument. He hooped at Georgia.
Okay.
Ended up going to the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Anthony Edwards.
Right. What's all we ever talked about with Anthony Edwards during the draft process coming out of high school to Georgia? Was it his basketball?
No, it was his physical. He's 6'6". He's a freak athlete. He can do every single thing that you want in terms of physical ability.
So when we were kind of by the weighing him in the draft and we wanted to raise concerns, what did we start to question?
The basketball skills. He shot a bad percentage in Georgia. His shot selection was bad. They didn't win a ton down there. Yeah.
That's so what we see now, because he's significantly better than I think even the most staunch Anthony Edwards supporters would.
I think he is he's fulfilling the physical gifts.
Because he's now looking like a basketball talent.
Yes. Yeah.
That supports your argument.
Yes, because I think there was a time where he maybe wasn't as skilled at basketball and he's worked on it and gotten, and also he was a hard eval because of where he was at, right? He was not with a ton of good players.
How did Crean blow that?
Well, he's not like a super good basketball coach. If we're being honest here.
Oh, shoot.
Let's be real. He blew it at a lot of places, not with Dwayne Wade.
So which one do you think is easier to spot?
Oh, the athleticism is easier to spot because you can measure it. That's like you can put times and measurements on it. It's easier to spot.
Do you know what we're missing with that, though?
What's that?
Is coordination.
For sure. Which is, again, something that
I look at. So, I
consider it athleticism.
So do you know the one that I was going to use to refute?
What's that?
DK Metcalf.
Sure. But this is why I think it can work in football sometimes.
That was going to be my refute.
Because if you're okay with a guy basically staying in the lane of what he's good at, they can be productive, right? Mm-hmm. Which is why the thing that Rhule is doing is interesting. And we talked about this. I think we talked about this on Monday or Tuesday.
I just want to stop this for a second and say props to me for those two examples off the top
terrific
of my
examples.
Head. Anthony Edwards, DK Metcalf.
Now, my only bone to pick with that is because the sports are so different, it can be but I'm going to cross sports on you too here.
Okay.
So we talked about how one of the things I liked about Rhule staff is they look for what guys can do as opposed to what they can't do.
Fair.
Right? That's a DK Metcalf mindset of, hey, I get
Let this guy go vertical.
Let this guy do what he's good at.
Let him make some contested catches.
And even when he's not doing that thing, they're going to be worried about him doing that thing all of the time. Like maybe we don't worry about him running super precise routes and we just let him be fast and enormous and take pressure off the or put pressure on the defense that way, right? It's the same thing that I like about Greg Popovich. Through all of those San Antonio Spurs teams, he cared about what people could do, not what they couldn't do. That's why Boris Dia was an important part of those teams. That's why Danny Green, undrafted and cut by multiple teams, was good on those teams and almost won himself a Finals MVP because he didn't care that Danny Green couldn't dribble or create his own shot. He cared that he could make open threes and play defense, right?
Yeah.
So we're crossing sports again here, but that's where it becomes on the coaches and kind of what you're asked to do, because the temptation when you have super high-end physical abilities is to
heard it through the grapevine, or a different temptation?
Different temptation.
Okay.
Like
Shane, did they sing that song?
Like Adam and Eve in the Garden Temptation.
Okay.
I thought the Raisins sang that.
The
Californian Raisins. Heard it through the grapevine.
Remember when that was a thing?
I did. Barely.
Could you get the raisins at Burger King? Like, where was that where you could collect the raisins?
They were all over the place.
I think it was McDonald's. It was one of the fast food places.
Okay.
But the temptation with the supremely physically gifted
and you
guys.
dropped Supremes. Good job.
That was an accident.
Oh, no.
The temptation with those supremely physically gifted guys is to try and get everything you can out of them, right?
Last night, by the way, we all suck.
Because like with Anthony Edwards, you see the crazy physical ability and you want him to be the next guy. Here's an example of a guy that we weren't okay with him just staying at what he was good at. Andrew Wiggins. Supremely physically gifted in every way you could possibly want. That goes number one. We wanted him to be LeBron.
Yeah.
Right? We wanted him to be Tracy.
Why won't we defend? Right? Like
Tracy McGrady's probably a better example. He was never going to pass like LeBron did. But Tracy McGrady kind of seemed like his ceiling. And so everybody's disappointed that he doesn't turn into Tracy McGrady. Then he gets to the Warriors and like he defends, he rebounds, and he scores as like a third or fourth option. And now it's like, oh, Andrew Wiggins, kind of nice.
Yeah.
It's like, because they don't care about what he can't do. They care about what he can do.
So does it bother us more that we use them interchangeably, the talent and athletic thing, and they're not the same? Because
it bothers me.
Because I look at the whole, like, we'll just keep it close to home. Like Carter Nelson, elite level athleticism. I don't know
how good he is at football.
I don't know about his. I don't know how talented.
I have no idea how good he is at football.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Like,
and you're
Malachi Coleman, elite level athleticism,
supremely physically gifted.
I don't know how football talent, like wide receiver talented he is.
No idea. None at all.
But we use them kind of interchangeably.
Yeah, it's a mistake. Just flat out, it is a mistake to confuse physical gifts, whether you're talking about measurables, whether you're talking about coordination, whatever it is, to confuse physical gifts with skill set. Because I have no idea the level of Malachi Coleman's skill set.
Yeah.
I have no idea the level of Carter Nelson's skill set. What I do know is that if you can develop a skill set in them because of their elite physical gifts, they're going to be unbelievably good. But that's a pretty big if.
Can you be? I think you can. Can you be talented without being overly athletic?
Yes,
absolutely. Okay.
Now,
I kind of answered that as I was thinking.
It changes your ceiling.
Because I have some, like I think Max Anderson is a phenomenal hitting talent. Like the skills that it takes to hit a baseball, he can do at a high level.
Yep.
Just an average athlete, and maybe baseball is different.
Baseball's tough because of how skill driven it is. Like baseball is the toughest sport, I think, for raw athleticism.
Yeah,
to translate to success.
Because I like even in my own household, like from a football standpoint, Caleb is a rare talent, right? Like He can change positions, not play a ton of positions. He can take time off.
He can not play for 10 weeks and then
come back and do something like that. That's
unbelievable.
It's
what he had 14 receptions. And 2 picks
but
in a state title game?
He's not an elite level athlete.
Yeah, he's not running a 4.3 or anything like that. Yeah,
right now,
but elite football skill.
Correct.
Yes, but he's got the baseline athleticism.
Especially if he actually trained, right?
Yeah.
Like
if he's sport specific trained, which he will in college.
Yeah.
So baseball more than wrestling?
Honestly, I don't know enough about wrestling.
Now wrestling is a great example of talent versus. I've seen a lot of guys that are elite level athletes
that don't do well in wrestling.
Yeah. James Green, not necessarily James Green. There are some guys because he's very accomplished. You used to
like 20, 30 years ago be able to get away with having just
out of Pennsylvania. Like Red was one of those guys that was uber athletic,
physically gifted,
super gifted. Mm-hmm. Wow. Naturally talented he was as a wrestler. I don't think of Spencer Lee as super athletic, but as a wrestling savant, he is supremely talented.
Yeah,
right. His fitness, and you get into what he can't do, but wrestling's interesting.
20 to 30 years ago, you could get
Brock
away with that.
Brock Lesnar was extremely athletic as a wrestler. I'm not.
There's probably some level of talent there. I mean,
you know what I mean.
But he probably wasn't on the elite end
given the
talent.
Accomplishment, right?
Yeah,
wrestling is interesting.
Yeah, I don't have probably the frame of references enough to know, but I could see how
about
talent could overwhelm physical gifts in wrestling.
How about tennis? Andre Agassi, the prodigy, right?
Yeah,
elite level talent.
Yeah.
Anybody ever talk about Agassi's athleticism?
I mean, you didn't talk about a lot of guys' athleticism back in the day. Here's a better example, I think. Let's go a little more modern on tennis, right? Roger Federer, immaculate talent. Pretty good athlete. Rafael Nadal,
amazing athlete,
elite athlete, probably pretty good talent.
Yeah.
Then you've got Djokovic.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Djokovic is likely the marriage of the two.
I'm with you.
And then the next level of that is Carlos Alcaraz, who is definitely the elite level athlete and the elite level talent.
He is a super talent.
He's coming for everything those guys had.
Yeah.
Every single
thing. Here's the, and I don't want to, I'm not anointing Alcaraz, and I know this is not what you're saying, because I think that's amazing. That's pretty good on the fly. So props to you.
Appreciate that.
With the mental Rolodex.
I'm a tennis dork.
And I like sports peers. Like when you can grow, like I'm vibing with you, right? Because and I'm in total agreement with you. But the thing about Alcaraz is there's something to the ability to maintain it over a long time that I don't know if I have a word for.
It's mental endurance. I think that's what I call it.
Yeah.
Because there's short-term
mental. But I think it's a skill you can develop. You can train.
Yeah, probably.
Does that? I'm thinking about this on the fly.
It's a skill that Nick Kyrgios doesn't have.
Right? There's no way you can see him being committed to the sport for...
No, and he's admitted it. He's mentally, I don't know if you watched the Netflix thing with him, but mentally, he's I can only do a handful of events a year. Otherwise, it's bad for my mental health. And that makes a lot of people mad. They're like, oh, you're so skilled and talented and whatever. And it's hey, he doesn't have, he doesn't have the Federer, the Tiger Woods, the whatever mindset to only care about one thing. Mm-hmm. And frankly, it's probably better for him as a whole person, because a lot of these hyper-focused athletes really struggle when they stop playing the sport, right? But Kyrgios is as physically gifted as it gets in tennis. Top 0.1%, right?
I'm 1,000%
and
step with you.
Probably really high on the talent scale as well. But he doesn't have the mental to grind through what all of these other guys who have produced at the level that we expect a talent like Kyrgios to produce.
So you know where I'm really thinking I'm on the Ravi train with you though, is it's kind of specific to what you're talking about.
100%.
Because
the grind of tennis is way different than the grind of basketball.
I just think about being what we're hearing about Ethan Nation as a kick returner.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere in there, there's the development of or being a natural at the skill that where you start to use the T word.
Yeah.
Because there are lots of good athletes, elite level athletes that don't have an
innate ability,
the talent.
Yeah. They don't have an innate ability
to return punts or kickoffs.
Yes, there's an instinct there.
I used to laugh. It used to make me so mad because I love Crouch. And why don't you just put him back there on punt returns? I'm like, are you crazy?
Are you out of your mind?
Like, are you
watching a hole develop on an option is a dramatically, and being able to hit it and whatever and like do it right, which he was elite at.
Yeah.
Right. Is a totally different skill set than fielding a punt where you're looking straight up, bringing your eyes down, doing like a 1/10 of a second evaluation on where everybody is, and then deciding what to do. That is a totally different skill.
Do you know who is an elite level athlete that is not a very talented return man?
Who's that?
Jalen Lloyd.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Okay.
I tried like crazy. I'm just keeping it 100. I tried like crazy
to get that guy to be able to return kicks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not his jam.
And that's, it's funny.
But do you know who's like a naturally talented returner?
Who?
That's just a good athlete would be Keenan Cotton.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
Now Cotton's a good athlete.
Yes.
He can run and jump. Can't do a lot of multiple sports.
Sure.
Track and football is a natural marriage there, but he is a naturally gifted return man. Like he is very talented in that area where it just comes to him and you can see it. Like you can just see it. It's like you have a gift for that.
Well, it's funny you were talking about. So I was on TikTok today, and watching randomly some DeMornay Pearsonell highlights, and you could see because there's some of the kicks that he took back for touchdowns. You're like, why is he returning?
Oh
that?
yeah.
Like what are we doing here?
He had
you could just tell he knew he had this innate instinct on how to return punts.
Is talent and gifted more synonymous?
When you don't put physically in front of gifted, yeah.
Because somehow I think with talent there's some innate feature I can't see.
So that's where I say instinct.
Okay.
That's when you're talking about like kind of the like unteachable whatever, like the it factor of that position or that skill. That's what I just call instinct. Some of these guys just have an instinct for, you're talking about AJ Allen, right? Had an instinct for running the football.
That dude is uber talented.
Yes, because he's got the physical, he's got all of it, right? He's got all the things you would want. So he falls under the talent umbrella. To me, talent's the overarching umbrella. And under that, you got physical ability, you got instinct, and you got skill development. It's all under.
I'll ride with that for now.
I just have to define things, otherwise we just sit here arguing about nothing. And that's not as much fun. I think Shane's telling us we got a GTFO. So
Lord have
that's
mercy.
our boy Shane Schillerberg.
GTFO, what does that mean?
Get the fun out.
That's the thing that has the big engine and you can.
That's a GTO. That's a GTO.
I do like Pontiacs.
R.I.P.
I thought they were Mustangs.
Pour one out for the Pontiac.
Were they GTOs?
Yeah, Pontiac was GTO.
There wasn't a GTO Mustang?
They're GT. Shelby GT.
Oh, sorry.
I'm not a car guy.
Who are you, Kenny Goodrich?
I'm not
Al Goodyear?
I'm not a car guy like Shane.
Oh, allegedly. I can't tell.
I just like my Jeep.
Hey, get Al Unser out of here.
That's the first time anybody's ever accused me of being a gearhead.
That's a Shelby GT. All right, different.
I only know him from like movies and stuff. I watched Ford versus Ferrari.
Allegedly.
That's my guy.
That's a great movie.
I love Ford. That's a really good movie.
You can't just throw great around. Great.
I didn't call it the GOAT. I just said it was great.
You're calling him.
That was a great movie, Shane?
Yeah.
It was really good.
It's about cars. It's about cars. Of course it was great.
Well, so is the one with Lightning McQueen, but would you call it great?
I've never seen it.
I call it Cars. I don't watch cartoons. You know me. That's. You gotta get out of here. That's Damon Benning.
Tough thing.
I'm Ravi Lulla. This has been another edition of Dish and Dish.